As you might be able to tell from this very high quality shot of a gourami, well, it's not completely high quality, it's a little bit blurry, but as you might be able to tell from that, I recently got a macro lens. I was cleaning my room and I actually found one, and at first I was just kind of thinking this could heighten my videos a lot. I could add, cool shots of my fish up close so that my videos aren't just like poorly thrown together vlogs and they actually have some level of production value. And I was just kind of recording snails in my various setups just to get a closer look at them. And I was looking at my pond snail, and then I kind of thought, oh, I know what I could use this for, my Jarrarium, because I need to do an update on that because I've been putting it off for so long. And at first it was just kind of like, okay, yeah, ram's horn, he's orange, that's cool. But then I saw this little thing in the corner, and I realized it was a cyclops, and there was an even smaller thing next to it. Something I wouldn't have seen without the macro lens, and something I wouldn't have been able to show you guys without it. And this got me thinking, alright, perfect time to do a Jarrarium update. So that's exactly what we're doing today. But before we get into any of that, as you probably could tell by the caption at the very start of the video, we're taking a look at something else first, and that's actually the bowl. Now you can see here on this piece of water lettuce, we've got a bunch of little Daphnia and like ostracod, all sorts of little microfauna things, actually eating a dying leaf on it, kind of in a similar fashion to like an isopod chewing a dying leaf. Which I thought was really cool, and it was really cool to show up close. I mean, the first shot wasn't up close, and you could still see it pretty well, but it's quite cool to look at, and I just thought, might as well show it to you guys, like, when else am I going to be able to put this in a video? And it actually opens the opportunity for me to talk about the fact that the next time I do another bowl update, I mean, I just did one a while ago, but I'll probably do another one soon, because I can actually use the macro lens to show you guys all sorts of, like, little things that are happening in the bowl, which is really cool, and I think this is going to be just good for the channel in general, because pretty much all the tanks look a lot cooler when you get the occasional shot with the macro lens, and it's going to be especially good when we do the finally do the Isoproject update, because I can get you guys some good looks at like springtails and like slugs and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I thought it would just be kind of cool to show you guys these little water fleas or whatever they are. I'm not really sure. They've got like spots on them, and you can see little ones and stuff. And it's just kind of cool, they're just motoring around, and it's quite entertaining to just watch them do their thing. This is some water lettuce from my 20 gallon, and there's a little planarian. You can see how flat he really is. And it's kind of nice to see one, not up against the glass, because you can get a look at how, they actually have dimensions to them. Another thing to mention in the bowl is that my Bacopa is trying to flower underwater. I have no idea if that's going to work or how it would work, but it sure is trying, so I gotta give it credit for that. And here's one final shot of the Daphnia and friends, I guess, hanging out in this water lettuce before we finally transition into the main topic of today's video with this epic fade, the Jarrarium. Now, as you can see, it's grown in quite a bit since you've last seen it. The wood has pretty much waterlogged itself, and the hornwort and anacris have basically taken over the jar. And you can see by these close-up shots that the anacris is doing quite well, and it's very healthy, and it's definitely keeping this ecosystem, intact, to say the least. And I'm just going to give you guys a sort of all-around shot of the Jarrarium here. You can see the wood is almost waterlogged. I don't think it is quite. I think that rock should be in the gravel if it is, but it's getting there, and it looks very nice. It's very aesthetically pleasing for a Jarrarium, which, you'd usually just expect to be some mud and some snails. You can see the Java moss there, which has finally started to grow, and also some dwarf hairgrass, which was floating in the bowl and is not doing very well. Here you can see that shot of the ram's horn again, just with the little cyclops and the little other whatever thing. Just kind of cool to show you guys that there is some sort of diversity in this ecosystem, and I'd say that's probably thanks to the bowl water we added. Here you can see a little batch of, I believe to be pond snail eggs, and I think you can see a little pond snail inside there. So that's pretty cool. That means that population is going to be multiplying yet again. It's already multiplied like once, but another time is always good, especially in an enclosed system. Of course, we've got a ton of planarian in here, and by a ton I mean 3. There's 1. And, they kind of just do their own things in here. They kind of just scurry about. I got no problem with them. They look kind of cool. They got a little triangle head going on, and they're quite entertaining to watch. And hey, I got no shrimp in here, so I'm not going to complain. They're not going to eat anyone. That's too important to me. You also might be able to see some little microfauna in the background of the shot, as well as some worms. Just kind of some cool other things that have popped up in this aquarium. Oh, there's a, it looked like a copepod there, so that's pretty cool. And yeah, you can see them there going up, and there's all sorts of things kind of going on in the background. And sometimes you might think you're seeing something, but it's probably just a little like bubble on the glass. just because of how it was made. And you can see a slight film of algae on the glass, which we're probably going to tackle at some point, surprising planaria. Because, as I mentioned, this is not an enclosed ecosystem. This is a Jarrarium, not an Ecosphere, which means it's completely safe to open it, as I'm doing here, to give you guys a look on the inside. I've added a bit of water lettuce and some more floaters in here, just to kind of, you know, give it a cool aesthetic from the top, and also the look of water lettuce from the bottom with like all the roots looks pretty cool, as you would know from my 20-gallon. There you can just see some of the duckweed and the various other plants that are growing on the top. I was hoping to see something cool like the Daphne and the bull or something going on similar, but unfortunately I didn't get any of that in this shot. But as I was saying, as this is a Jarrarium and not an Ecosphere, it is perfectly okay, like based on whatever conventions or whatever, for me to open this. Which means we are going to be adding things and doing maintenance in various other updates so that we can keep this thing interesting and fresh. You can see here the Java fern is starting to grow a tiny bit. It's not dead, it's not like flourishing by any means, but I'm hoping that it'll eventually sort of take over the wood in the jar along with the Java moss, which could be quite cool to see. There's nothing really else to say about this thing. You can take a look at my pajama there, but we're just going to close this guy up. You might be able to tell I have moved its position. It is now in front of the bowl. This is where that succulent terrarium used to be, but I decided to move it because I thought the jar wasn't getting a lot. The jar was getting not enough light, and neither was the succulent terrarium. So the succulent terrarium's somewhere else now. There's just a little pond or a bladder snail. You can tell because it's got the longer antenna, like the pond snails. I don't really know if there's a true difference, but most of the pond snails kind of have like rabbit ears, and that's what I usually have. There's a little wormy guy. I don't know what he is, but he's kind of chilling in there. There's quite a biodiversity in here, which is honestly quite amazing considering none of this water has ever been like sourced from a river locally, and I assume that just has to be thanks to the salvinia and the other various floating plants that were sourced from like a garden store, because that's the only way, because that stuff isn't quarantined very well because they just expect you to chuck that in a pond, right? So it doesn't really matter. But if you ever want to create a project like this, I would definitely say just go to a garden store and pick up some floaters, because you will definitely get something like that. So if you don't have water near you, that's kind of your solution to that. Like I meant, like if you don't have a pond near you, obviously you have to have water near you to live. There's just another shot of the Anacris, which this looks so cool under the macro lens. And now I thought it would be really cool to get a shot of the algae to see what we, not the algae, a shot of the gravel to see what we could find, but there ain't nothing down there, unfortunately. Just a bunch of poop and detritus. Now here you can see what I believe to be a baby ram's horn. Now I'm not sure, but he's orange and pond snails aren't orange, so that's the best thing I've got going on. But that would be pretty cool because A, that means ram's horns are breeding in here, so it's not just pondies breeding in here and like other various microfauna. And it also means we could potentially stock up one of my other aquariums with some ram's horns, like my 10-gallon, just because, you know, that tank doesn't have enough snails already. Now you can see on this guy there's a bit of pitting on his shell, and we're going to readdress that later in the video, but I thought I'd just bring it to your attention now. And I thought that was a thing, but it's just well, it is a thing, but I thought it was alive, but it seems to just be a little bit of debris. But yeah, here's the ram's horn. He looks quite cool when he's awake. They've got a very nice orange color, and they're a pretty cool snail. And you can see the pond snail here is like, hey, I know I'm overhated in this hobby, but give me some attention. Yeah, here's that baby ram's horn looking thing again. I mean, he's orange. I don't see how he could be anything else, because pond snails aren't really that color, but who knows? It could just be the lighting. Speaking of lighting, not really, there's the Java moss, which looks like little Anacris under the macro lens, which I think is quite cool. I thought the wood would have anything interesting, and it actually did. There's a bit of Java moss down here, which is pretty cool. I hope that just takes over the wood along with the Java ferns. All the Javas be taken over the wood, that's how it be. You can see the hornwort here has a bit of dying bits on it, but I'm not going to address that. I think we're just going to kind of let this thing do its own thing, where we're going to occasionally add stuff and occasionally take stuff out, but I don't really want to be doing any trimming or anything. But here's a little thing we did add. You can see this snail looks awful. He's got like so much melting or like pitting going on with his shell, and I wasn't going to let that stand because everything in here is a crustacean and it needs calcium. So I opened up this bag of oyster shells, the same one we used when we started the Jarrarium, and I just opened this thing up and chucked those bad boys in there. And I'm hoping this will help these snails to create like thicker shells and help make this ecosystem more sustainable as time goes on. Also, since I'm not going to be doing any water changes on this thing for the foreseeable future, we don't have to worry about any of the dissolved calcium being removed from the ecosystem. So hopefully all the snails will do a lot better after this. And yeah, enjoy this shot of a planarian as we fade to black. So I hope you guys enjoyed this Jararium update. I guess next I'll do the 10 gallon, I guess we'll see, but thanks guys for watching.